this is my presentation on the intergenerational transmission of emotional regulation strategies. I'll be looking at what passes on from parent to child. Thanks to Dr. Davis of the Emotional Regulation Lab for making this project happen. So I have a question for all of you. How many of you have been told you just act like your mom, dad, or both? So personally for me, I'm always told I'm my mother's daughter. But there's a reason for this, and that is because children copy the behaviors of their caregivers. Not necessarily new information, but did you know this also includes your coping behavior skills? How our older generations cope transmits down to the younger generations internally and externally, and can happen due to historical events such as COVID-19 and World War II. Unfortunately and recently, the younger generations are showing more maladaptive coping strategies than adaptive. An example of maladaptive coping strategies is using substances instead of dealing with the actual problem adaptively. So, is there a way we can help our younger generations with their maladaptive coping strategies? And the answer is yes. Parents who practice emotional socialization can help children practice their emotional regulation, or ER strategies, which in turn helps build for the bigger picture, the overall coping skills. So think of the emotional regulation strategies as something short-term, such as calming yourself down before a big presentation, and coping skills, such as dealing with grief. Examples of emotional socialization can look like passing down stories with values, such as always be honest to your child, and discussing negative emotions from experiences with your child, such as discussing why this clip might be scary to them. So to recap, children can copy adaptive and maladaptive long-term coping behaviors from parents' events, but parents who continue to emotionally socialize and build short-term ER strategies, such as discussing negative emotions from experiences, can help them with passing down adaptive coping strategies. However, we don't really know the extent of these ER strategies being passed down. So, throughout my 8 weeks at MSRIP, I wanted to investigate the extent to which adults' emotional regulation patterns correspond to their children's, and if they do correspond, does it affect their engagement when discussing negative emotions and their experiences? So I had 3 hypotheses. Parents and children with corresponding interpersonal and intrapersonal ER strategies would have a difference in child and parent engagement. Interpersonal ER strategies is using these strategies to help other people. Intrapersonal strategies are using these strategies to help yourself. Additionally, if they did have corresponsive ER strategies, there would be a positive correlation between parent-child engagement, and there'll also be another positive correlation between their engagement and their connection. So to go over this study, we looked at 55 primarily Latinx parent-child dyads with only one exclusion due to a language barrier. And we compared their separate interview responses. We had parent and child sit in different rooms answer the following question. What do you do to make yourself feel better when you feel stressed, worried, or upset? We then took the responses and assigned them to our ER codes from a manual. The dark blue here stands for the interpersonal emotional regulation, or IER. The gray stands for the intrapersonal emotional regulation, or the ER. As we can see here, that the parents and child's IER has a match, and the child and parent's ER has a mismatch. Keep in mind for later that some dyads may have both mismatches or both matches. To measure our engagement and connection, we observed and globally coded how these dyads converse about their feelings after watching this very clip. We did this on a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being very least and 5 being very most. And we coded based on their parental engagement, which was them relying on asking questions to their child. Child engagement, which relied on them answering those questions from their parents. And dyadic connection. They were supposed to follow a task about telling how they felt about the movie instead of summarizing. So this measured the extent of them doing that. We then ran tests to find out if there was a difference in interpersonal ER matches and intrapersonal ER matches. The blue graph here shows the interpersonal matches, and as you can see here, the higher the global mean scores are, the more likely it is to have a match. However, only one of these findings were significant, and that was the child engagement. So it demonstrates to us that parents and children who use the same emotional regulation strategies, they will have to help each other. The child can engage more by answering questions, especially in an emotional context. This is the interpersonal graph, and we see here we have the same trends. However, our findings were not significant, but I thought parent engagement and child engagement were close enough to our significant test. If we had more samples, we would have probably a significance. Then we ran a lot of correlations. So let me break down this chart for you. These top 3 columns here are our 3 correlations we ran. Parent engagement and child engagement, parental engagement and dyadic connection, and child engagement and dyadic connection. This top row here demonstrates the overall score, overall participants and their correlations. The dark blue shows the correlations we only ran for participants who had IER match or IER mismatches. And the last 2 are the participants who only had either ER matches or ER mismatch. The green dots here signify that it was a strong positive correlation, significant correlation, and the red stands for the only negative correlation we found. The blank dots stand for no significant correlations. So on the left column here, the data tells me that if one is engaged, the other will also follow in their engagement. And if the child is engaged, their dyadic connection will also prosper. However, there's going to be a difference in their interpersonal emotional regulation strategies, and I think it's probably because since they already know how to help each other, they may not need to have a conversation about it as much. So it did answer my hypotheses a little bit, because parents who pass down this corresponding emotional regulation strategies, their children and parents interpersonally and intrapersonally, will be able to promote a conversation about feelings, but we still need to study about which type. This study may not have been the perfect method to be measuring ER transmission and engagement. There might be another method for that. And child engagement may not be related to a conversation about feelings, especially when they have the same interpersonal emotional regulation strategy. So to take away, our parents passing down ER strategies affects how we engage in conversations about our feelings. And this means that we need to be careful how we cope, how we emotionally regulate during short-term times. That way we can create more adaptive strategies, which will turn into more adaptive coping behavior skills. And that way we can help our younger generations in that. Thank you so much to the Emotional Regulation Lab, Dr. Davis and my friends and family for supporting me. If you would like to connect with me, here's my email and my link.